Coming to you from Atlanta, this is The Science of Self, where you can improve your life from the inside out. This is your host, Russell. Today is September 21st, 2023. Not only is today Thursday, but it's Telegraph Pole Appreciation Day. Now that's digging deep. Are there even any telegraphs left? From nationaltoday.com, our lunch menu today, based on today's holidays and celebrations, includes a pecan cookie, or is it pecan cookie, some chai to drink, and a pawpaw. I didn't even know this. A pawpaw apparently is a fruit that tastes like a cross between a mango, a banana, and other fruits. So enjoy one of those today, if you can find one. Peter Hollins' book, The Lifelong Learner, is the source of today's episode, and he reminds us that self-learners are able to create their own curriculum, set their own goals, and determine their own syllabus for improvement. So you don't have to rely on your college professor to lay out the pathway for your life. Thanks for joining us today.
Working deeply and deliberately on a passion goal isn't always easy, especially when you don't have an outside authority or syllabus to guide your learning process. Yet the best way to truly master a topic, whether it be a new language or skill set, is to come up with your own personal syllabus and use deep work to stick with it. Go beyond simply reading through tutorials. Try out actions associated with the topic. Apply what you're learning in different contexts, and take time for reflection throughout the journey. Remember, having an effective syllabus that allows room for flexibility can make all the difference when it comes to engaging with deep work. One of the biggest goals of most people in life is personal and professional development. But why do some manage to get so far while others remain in the same place without progressing in their lives and careers? Is luck the key to success? Or maybe fate? The secret to being successful in life and profession is not in chance, but in the strategies of action and in the possibilities that each one creates for himself. When obstacles appear in the way, not everyone is prepared to remove them and move on. And this process of overcoming and learning needs to be constant. You don't need to wait for some external institution to impose a curriculum on you. You can set your own goals and create a program for development. Some people enroll in courses or degrees or wait for their employers to send them to get specialist training, but others don't need this permission and can take their own growth and development into their own hands. Creating a personal syllabus is the ideal way to achieve this ambition. Designing your personal syllabus. Let's take the real-life example of Harry, who recently graduated with a degree in computer sciences. Harry started applying for entry-level roles with several software companies. However, he's still confused about how to get on with his career. Harry's love for computer goes back to his childhood, and he's always dreamed of becoming a computer engineer. He knows that to get a job at the right place, he needs to develop expertise in at least one programming language. However, he isn't prepared to sit back and wait for the companies to call him. He wants to take control of his own personal and professional development. How can self-learning help Harry land his dream job? Creating a personal syllabus is a commitment to your own development. It's a plan that systematizes various actions to be taken so that you achieve a certain goal through personal and professional development. In other words, it's a roadmap for you to get from where you are now to where you want to be. Or, more broadly, to become who you would like to be. As it is a real written document with goals and deadlines, your personal syllabus helps you maintain focus. By sticking to strategically considered steps, you don't get carried away by random distractions, and you're not derailed by unforeseen events. Creating your own syllabus is not easy, but it pays huge dividends for the time you invest in your personal growth. Before proceeding to set goals for your personal development, you need to know which skills you need to develop as well as adopt a growth mindset. Some believe that they're born with a certain number or type of skills that can never be changed, which implies that learning new skills is outside their comfort zone and impossible. This is a fixed mindset. However, with a growth mindset, you accept challenges and embrace new experiences because you fundamentally believe you're capable of change and growth. This means you see setbacks as a way to grow, and you reflect on ways to use your skills to improve your deficits. While creating a personal syllabus, it's important to understand what skills need to be developed or honed in order to cope with a job or reach a new professional level. Taking the example of Harry, he knows that Python is in demand and wants to be a Python programmer, and he even studied the topic at the university. However, he's still short of the skills required to land his dream job. He sees that it's definitely worth assessing his current skills accurately, reinforcing the basics, and choosing a course for basic to advanced Python. The skills that you need will naturally be different, but it's up to you to prioritize the skills needed, perhaps based on your dream job requirements or the skills requested by job vacancies. Set SMART goals and create a mind map. When building a training plan, you need to start with goals. See where you want to be in a year and what position you'd like to take. Go to LinkedIn or another job portal and write out the requirements and responsibilities from the relevant vacancies. Opposite each non-recurring item, note what skills you already possess and what is yet to be added to your portfolios of competencies. Then, see how you can develop the skills you need, whether it be paid courses, YouTube videos, expert blogs, or hands-on tasks. Once you've identified the areas and skills you need to work on, think about what you want to achieve in your studies and work. Experts advise using the SMART model when setting goals. According to the model, goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, meaningful, and time-limited. Your personal learning syllabus could include goals such as an I want to learn X learning goal. For example, to become confident in my public presentation and speaking skills, or to write clearer and more concise emails. And I will learn via strategy. This could mean watching Udemy courses, signing up for speaking skills training, or taking part in amateur dramatics, for example. And I will know that I've been successful when measurement. This could be receiving feedback on a presentation, or it could be as simple as recognizing that you feel less stressed when you're speaking on the phone. For example, the goal to learn Python sounds vague. It's better to formulate it like this. Learn to work with advanced Python language, get a certification, and find a job in an international company. When you understand why you need to learn something, the goal motivates you and learning comes easier. It's often helpful to break down your long-term objective into smaller steps. Following this and other golden rules of goal setting can help you stay focused and increase your chances of success. Make a list of resources. We're all different. Therefore, we don't think and learn in the same way. To maximize your learning, try to rediscover your learning style. Your learning style defines how you learn best. There are many theories about learning styles, but the simplest and most concrete is the one that stems directly from our sensory channels. The visual profile, sight. Auditory profile, touch. The kinesthetic profile, smell, hearing, and taste. There are many websites that offer tests to identify your cognitive profile, which, incidentally, may change over time. You could have been more visual as a child, but are more auditory as an adult. Knowing your cognitive profile will allow you to know which tools are most appropriate for your development and which profiles you should develop. For instance, if you're more visual, read books, check infographics, watch videos, etc. If you're more auditory, listen to podcasts, read aloud, watch videos, etc. If you're more kinesthetic, take notes, role play, materialized concepts, etc. We're lucky to live in a world where knowledge is just a click away, and we have access to a world of information online. Vary the media to stay motivated, adapt them to your availability, and combine several sources of information. In Harry's case, he might find that he most enjoys learning via online multimedia courses, where he can watch videos and interact with others on forums. To read. To listen. Others. Books. Podcasts. Apps. Magazines. Videos. Groups. Newsletters. Webinar. Ebooks. Conferences. White papers. You can also use this resource list to find all the resources for your personal syllabus. Create a schedule and deadlines. Learning is not something you can just shove into your life and hope for the best. Learning should instead be the sun around which all your other activities orbit, like planets. Don't forget that you're learning to improve your life. What could be more important than that? When choosing formats and duration of training, take into account your work schedule, family circumstances, seasonality, and other factors that may affect the implementation of your personal syllabus. Make it clear, yet flexible. Once you've chosen courses, add them to your schedule. Mark business trips, holidays, and family duties in the calendar. Then mark the dates associated with the training, the beginning and end of studies, the days you need to attend classes, the deadlines for submitting papers and tests, and so on. Also consider the days and times of day when you are most energetic and efficient. Create a time frame for each goal. What are you going to do today, tomorrow, next week, and 6 months from now to reach your goal? Make sure you apply time management and learn how to properly budget your time. Create a daily routine. Change doesn't happen by itself, and it needs to happen more than once, i.e., your learning needs to be habitual, day in and day out. Consistency is key. It's important that your short-term goals align with your long-term career goals. For example, in a couple of years, Harry might want to go into Python consulting. Does he need to deepen his knowledge in the language itself or master new tools and programs? Does he need to prioritize improving communication skills or learn how to negotiate? This will help him prioritize learning, systematically move toward his goal, and not try to do everything at once. A time-based target date, deadline, or schedule is important when creating a personal syllabus. This could be your ultimate learning and development goal or mission statement, or it could be stages along the way. For example, I will learn X new Python skills by August, and then focus on developing a new skill by the end of the year. There needs to be a process of regular review, evaluation, and, if necessary, a complete reset. While this is happening, you can continue to seek out the training resources you need to move your career along. Setting benchmarks and tracking progress is the very process that positively affects your level of motivation. As already mentioned, in the process of learning, you'll not immediately begin to receive practical results, which means that there's a risk of giving up in the early stages unless you're vigilant and prepared and track your progress. Tracking should be understood primarily as keeping a diary. You write down what you studied, as well as how much time it took. Document everything. In a few weeks, it will be possible to draw certain conclusions based on this information. You'll learn to identify trends, understand your strengths and weaknesses, and recognize bad and good habits. In Harry's case, he can combine this with feedback he receives from tutors on a formal course or ask mentors for their advice on how he's progressing. Along with reminders and rewards, enlist family and friends to help you with your self-learning plan. It can be difficult on your own, but if you enlist a friend or relative to help you stick to your plan, you'll feel obligated to complete the task and feel guilty if you don't. In fact, the more people you rope in, the more likely you are to be asked about your progress. These simple questions may be just what you need to stay on top of your plan. For Harry, knowing that his younger cousin is studying the same course brings just enough of a sense of competition to keep him on his toes and remind him what his priorities are. Following a personal syllabus and achieving your goals will only benefit you. However, overcoming difficulties when you don't feel like committing or working is the hardest part. You can create your own learning plan based on the steps, or follow this template from Dr. Bernard Bull. The Gibbs method of reflecting on your learning journey. Finally, no personal syllabus is complete without enough time and space dedicated to stopping and evaluating your progress. After all, this is the only way you can make course corrections and reappraise your goals and methods. Self-reflection is deliberately pausing to consider and contemplate your progress. It takes conscious awareness and a whole lot of honesty. In the process of self-reflection, a person seems to look into a mirror and describe everything that he sees in it. This is a method of evaluating yourself, your methods of work, and your learning processes. In psychology, self-reflection is an excellent tool for evaluating the effectiveness of any approach you're taking toward self-improvement. This is a powerful way to develop as a person, to make yourself better, and to achieve significant success in life. It's like stopping on a journey to check if you're still en route to your destination and reminding yourself of the map you're following. Reflective learning consists of becoming aware of your own learning process. It's a kind of meta-learning. Being reflective in your learning implies thinking about what and how you're learning to understand yourself and your learning better. You can reflect on your understanding of the material, for example, how well you understand certain concepts, your understanding of how to implement what you've learned, for example, when and how you can use a certain formula. Your learning process, for example, how well certain learning strategies work for you. Your abilities, preferences, and thoughts, for example, how difficult or enjoyable you find a certain topic. Your goals, for example, where and when you plan to implement something that you've learned, and what you hope to achieve by doing so. When doing all this, you can use various questions to guide your reflection, as shown in the examples above, and the following are some specific questions that you might benefit from using. Which parts of the material do I understand well? How do I know that I understand this material well? Which parts of the material do I struggle with? What specifically am I struggling with and why? Which learning techniques do I feel are helpful? Why do I feel that they're helpful? Which learning techniques do I feel are unhelpful, and why do I feel that they're unhelpful? Are there any changes that I can make to my learning process to make it better for me? Should I ask someone else for help, either with my reflection or with my learning? If so, then what should I ask about, and who is a good person to ask this? Gibbs Reflective Cycle for Self-Reflection. The Gibbs Reflective Cycle is a simple 6-stage process that can help you reflect on your experiences at work. You'll learn what is working well and what could be better, and develop a plan of action to minimize weaknesses. This model was first described by Professor Graham Gibbs in his 1998 book, Learning by Doing, A Guide to Teaching and Learning Methods. This theory was partly inspired by the Kolb learning cycle, which was in turn inspired by the work of Kurt Lewin. This model consists of 6 steps. The first 3 steps focus on events during the analyzed experience. The last 3 steps focus on how you can take advantage of the experience so that you can anticipate similar situations in the future that you will encounter. This series of processes is a worthwhile career skill to learn. You can use it to evaluate performance in your professional environment, but it's also a great model to use if you're training subordinates or colleagues to improve their skills in a particular area. Description. Describe in detail the experience to be reflected on, including where you were at the time of the incident, who else was involved, why were you there, what you did, what other people did, in what context the experience occurred, what happened, what your role in this experience was, what the role of others was, and what the result of that experience was. Feelings. Identify and examine the reactions, feelings, and thoughts that emerged during the incident. Try to be honest about how you feel and think, even though this may not be easy. The following questions can help you explain the feelings and thoughts involved in the reflected experience. How did I feel when the incident started? What was on my mind at that time? How did the incident affect my feelings? If certain feelings arose during the event, what caused them? Why is that? How did the other people involved in it affect how I feel? How did my feelings affect my actions and thoughts on the experience? How do I feel about the outcome of the incident? Looking back on the experience now, have my feelings changed from before? How do I feel about it now? Evaluation. Try to evaluate or make a judgment about what's happened. Consider what was good and what was bad about the experience. What went well and what didn't go well in your experience. What makes you think so? Analysis. In this section, thoroughly examine and understand the influencing factors in the situation or experience and explore various ways to improve it or develop it for the better. In conducting the analysis, try to describe the event or experience you're reflecting on and explore each part separately. Identify the key aspects that contributed to this experience and the possible explanations for each, how and why. For example, consider aspects of communication or time management that may play an important role in the final outcome of the experience you reflect on. Also, describe any ideas or theories, if any, that you think could help you understand the situation. Are there any ideas, theories, or approaches that could help you improve on this key aspect in the future? Compare this experience with other experiences that you think are similar or related, or can be compared to the literature you read. These questions can help you analyze each of the components. What went well? What have I done well? What things have other people done well? What went wrong or unexpected? In what ways did I or someone else contribute to the incident? Are there any other experiences that are similar to this one? What can I learn from these other experiences in relation to understanding the experiences I'm reflecting on now? Are there any ideas, theories, or literature that can help me understand and develop a solution to this situation? Conclusion. The difference between this stage and the evaluation stage is that at this stage, you've seen the incident from various perspectives and should have a lot of information to support your assessment. At this stage, too, you already have insight into the contribution of your actions or behaviors and others to the consequences of an event. Remember that the purpose of reflection is to learn from experience. Without detailed analysis and honesty in conducting exploration, will not be able to see the various aspects that influence our judgment, and this inhibits true learning. In your conclusion, it's important to be aware of the following. Were you actually able to do anything different during this experience? What have you learned from this experience? If the experience you're reflecting on is a positive one, also discuss whether you do the same if this experience were repeated to ensure a positive outcome. Also, consider if there is anything else you would like to change to improve your output or results. If the experience was a negative one, also explain how you could prevent or avoid it in the future and how you can make sure that the experience or an aspect of the experience does not happen again. Action plan. At this stage, think about what you will do if you encounter a similar incident in the future. Would you do something different, or would you do the same thing? Is there something important here for you to learn? Or is there any training you need to take? Do you need advice or input from a supervisor? At this stage, the reflection cycle tentatively ends. But if a similar incident is experienced again, the learner will re-enter the next cycle of reflection. For Harry, his self-reflection takes place with bigger events, such as failing a major course module, to smaller, more everyday ones, such as wondering if it's better to study certain material before or after lunch each day. The idea is never to be punitive or judgmental. Rather, you remain curious and keep asking essentially two questions. Is what I'm doing working? What can I do that will work even better? Deep work. Deep working is working without distraction on a hard task. The type of work that constitutes deep work will vary from person to person and workload to workload. Although most people are familiar with the sentiment of deep work and can probably even point to several times in their life when they have entered this flow state and produced work on this level of high focus, the truth is, deep work is a dying art. The ability to harness your focus to complete cognitively demanding tasks is becoming less and less common due to our increasingly distracting environments. Emails, social media, and messaging are at our fingertips, and the cost of these convenient luxuries is that we're losing our ability to focus for prolonged periods. The good news is that you can undo this damage and regain control of your focus with the principles of deep work. Deep work versus shallow work. The term deep work was coined by Cal Newport, a computer science professor and best-selling author, clearly someone with high levels of focus, in his book Deep Work. In the book, he highlights two different working methods, deep work and shallow work. Shallow work consists of tasks that take up the majority of our time and energy. They're the tasks that keep us busy, and as Cal Newport puts it, they keep the lights on. Checking your emails, having meetings, invoicing clients, and making your PowerPoint presentation visually appealing are all examples of shallow work. Are they important? Of course. But they are the difference makers, and they're not the things that will lead to creation and innovation. This work won't produce results that will get you a promotion or solve a company-wide problem. It's quite simply just work we must do. Because this type of work is not cognitively demanding, we can balance it quite easily with distractions. If you're midway through checking your emails and suddenly your phone buzzes and you need to reply to a few texts, you'll find it relatively easy to switch back to focusing on your emails when those texts have been sent. While these tasks require attention, the attention is not intense, and you can flit between tasks because of how little brain power is required to complete them. In contrast, deep work requires focus, lots of focus. It requires brain power and a distraction-free environment. Think of tasks like coding, creative writing, and complex problem-solving. The kind of tasks that you could lose all sense of time while completing if only you didn't keep checking your phone. This is the type of work that produces quality, and it's becoming increasingly rare. Let's give another example. You've been deep working for 20 minutes on researching a new article. Your phone buzzes, and you begin to answer a few texts. When you try to go back to focusing on your research, you can't. You lose the momentum of your focus, and the discomfort required to re-enter the deep work state only makes further distractions more appealing. So you decide to open your emails and complete some other shallow tasks. Within 30 minutes, you're on YouTube, watching a video of a dog trying to carry 2 tennis balls in its mouth at the same time. Okay, that might have gotten a little bit specific, but hopefully you get the point. Cognitively demanding tasks cannot be maintained with distractions. One of the biggest advantages of being able to deep work often and for longer is this: not many people can. The Western world is so bombarded with high dopamine distractions that it's no wonder we're losing our ability to concentrate and put distractions aside for even relatively short periods of time. While this is a problem on a societal level, it offers huge opportunities on the individual level. If you can train yourself to work free of disturbances on things that are difficult to do, you will have a huge competitive advantage over those who cannot. If you can produce in an hour what others produce in a day, you'll be more successful than those people. The ability to focus and avoid distraction and interruption is fast becoming a superpower. However, you don't need to be bitten by a radioactive spider or go through secret military experiments to get it. What you need to do is much scarier than that. Make yourself comfortable with being uncomfortable. Learning how to deep work is a great way to practice this skill. Okay, so we've established that deep work is important. Now, here's the fun bit. How can you get better at deep working and make it a more consistent part of your life? One of the fundamental steps to increasing the amount of deep work you can achieve is simple, and we've actually just done it. We've defined it. Deep working should now mean something to you. You should be able to identify what parts of your workload will require deep work and which parts you can do while shallow working. Try putting these differences into writing. On a piece of paper, draw out 2 columns. Label these deep work and shallow work. Think about all the tasks your work requires you to do and put each task under one of these categories. Just knowing the differences and knowing when you need to use different working styles is fundamental to implementing them successfully in life. The next step is to think about what exactly your deep work sessions will look like. It's important to have a clear picture in your head. How do you plan to minimize distractions? How long is a deep work session for you? Will you take breaks? What parts of your environment can you change to make them less distracting? What will you do with your phone? What happens if someone distracts you? How do you get back into the flow of deep work if a distraction does occur? It's good to be prepared and plan for these situations so you're not relying solely on emotive decisions in the moment. The way you deep work should be kept consistent. Cal Newport even recommends having deep working rituals in place. These serve to subconsciously reinforce that you are about to start deep working. Newport's own ritual looks a bit like this. He'll take the same walk to work, different from his regular, go to the same office space, and make the same coffee in the same cup. These actions are purposely different to those he does when his goal is shallow work, and they help his brain seamlessly slip into deep work mode. What rituals can you implement to help you? Are you able to work in a different location? Are you able to drink something different? Maybe playing a certain type of music or doing breath work before can be part of your ritual. Whatever you choose, Ritualizing deep work is a fantastic way to distinguish it from other work commitments. Planning, protecting, and measuring deep work. A key aspect of introducing more deep work into your life is planning, protecting, and measuring it. Failure to plan the times when you will deep work will, for most people, lead to the deep work session being skipped or not fully utilized. The deep work to shallow work ratio and the deep work philosophies, both mentioned below, are great ways to begin this planning process. Once you've planned your deep working time, it is vital to protect it. Treat your scheduled deep working sessions as you would a meeting or other commitment. A great way to achieve this is by blocking that time off in your calendar. Decide when you want to start deep work and when you want to finish, and most importantly, do not allow yourself to skip it. Planning your time is making a commitment to yourself. Make sure you uphold that commitment. If someone suggests a call during your deep work time, you can't. You're busy. You have a commitment. Many people will see the time they blocked off for personal commitments as amendable. Do not be one of those people. Respect your new deep working habit the same way you would respect a meeting with an important client or boss. By properly planning and protecting your deep work sessions, you should be able to adequately measure the time spent deep working. These measurements will prove useful when assessing your own productivity and workload, as you'll be able to see what ratio of quality, high-focus work produces what results. If you have blocked off time in your calendar and protected that time, you can easily look back and know exactly how much deep work you were able to achieve. This is also a good point to remind you that deep working is a skill, and like all skills, you can get better at it. Being able to focus your attention on a cognitively demanding task for long periods is difficult. If you're not used to working in this manner, then spending 1 hour straight on deep work might be too long. There's no shame in starting small and building a great deep working habit over time. The deep work to shallow work ratio. By now, you should have a clear idea of which of your tasks require deep work and which require shallow work. The next part is to work out the perfect ratio of working hours between each working method. How many hours a week should you spend on deep work? How many hours a week should you spend on shallow work? Although each job role will have a different answer, Cal Newport identifies knowing the answer to be vital to the implementation of deep work and increased productivity. If you are employed, this will be something you figure out with your boss or manager. How long do they want you to spend replying to emails? How long do they want you to spend on project proposals? By knowing your ratio, you can identify when things aren't working for whatever reason. For example, if your boss and you identify that the perfect ratio is 1-to-1, with 20 hours a week being spent on shallow work and 20 hours being spent on deep work, then a week where you're only able to achieve 3 hours of deep work highlights a problem. This problem could be with your workload or with the ratio, but it should open up a productive conversation with your boss or manager. Deep work philosophies. If you are self-employed or working on a passion project, Newport suggests that one of the best ways to achieve greater levels of deep working is to have a deep working philosophy. This philosophy will be critical to your ability to implement deep work into your day-to-day life, as it will guide your scheduling decisions. Different people in different fields will find value in different scheduling philosophies. The way a stockbroker fits deep work into his workday will likely be completely different from how a life coach does. For this reason, it's important to think realistically, not just ideally, about which would be best suited for you. The following philosophies, as outlined by Newport in his book, should serve as a good starting point. Monastic. This philosophy's core principle is to increase deep work time by eliminating or radically reducing shallow work commitments. A famous example of this would be J.K. Rowling in her efforts to complete the final Harry Potter book. Rowling checked herself into a 5-star hotel and made finishing the book her sole commitment. She ended up staying at the Balmoral Hotel for 6 months. This seems like quite a radical move, but for Rowling, it was perfect for eliminating any distractions and shallow work commitments that weren't serving her current goal. Bimodal. As the name suggests, the bimodal philosophy involves dividing your time between two modes, deep and shallow. You'll switch modes either on a weekly or monthly basis to best achieve the perfect balance needed for your goals. For example, you might choose to spend one entire month working on the code for a new app you're building, and then the following month sending emails and working on the promotional aspects of the project. Rhythmic. This involves shifting between deep work and shallow work on a daily schedule. For example, scheduling 2 hours of deep work first thing every morning, and then allowing the rest of the day to be occupied by shallow work. Journalistic. This method involves opportunistically fitting in deep work whenever you can. This method would work well for those who have a constantly changing schedule. For example, if the majority of your day needs to be taken up with shallow work tasks, you might find opportunities to have a deep work session when a meeting gets canceled or when you unexpectedly finish your workload for the day early. As you can see, deep work is pretty individual. Different jobs, workloads, lifestyles, and personalities will benefit from different methods and attitudes to deep working. Finding your own style of deep work may take some time, and doing the cognitive reps to get you to sustain that focus may take even longer, but the rewards of habitual deep focus on cognitively demanding tasks have never been higher. While the convenience of mobile phones and social media continue to make sustained attention rare, there has never been a better time to take control of your focus and harness it for your own plan. Chapter takeaways. Self-learners are able to proactively create their own personal development curriculum, set their own goals, and determine their own syllabus for improvement, whether that's personally or professionally. You need to be clear on your goals, figure out what skills are most urgently needing development, then allow the SMART acronym to help you create a roadmap for the future. Goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, meaningful, and time-limited. Make a list of resources and be clear about your learning style and where you can access learning materials. Then create a schedule with realistic deadlines and benchmarks to keep you on track. Roping in others can help keep you accountable. Finally, make sure you're spending some time reflecting on your process, making honest adjustments as you go. Deep work is focused, productive work and is a rare skill in our world of distraction. Focusing without distraction allows us to be more deeply creative and solve problems at a higher level. Deep work takes commitment and discipline. Try to clearly define what deep work looks like for you, how to fit it in, its ratio to shallow work, and how to implement it via consistent ritual and habit. Deep work needs to be planned for, scheduled, and protected from encroachment. Measure it and adjust accordingly. Understand the amount of deep work you're aiming for and let nothing interfere with or interrupt it. Your unique deep work philosophy will depend on your personality as well as the nature of the task. Whether your approach is monastic, bimodal, rhythmic, or journalistic, take the time to figure out how best to bring more.
And that wraps today's episode from The Lifelong Learner by Peter Hollins. To learn more about the author, or to get some free information and get on his mailing list, please take a moment and visit bit.ly/Peter Hollins. And while you're on the internet, check us out at newtonmg.com. The birthday list for today includes Bill Murray, Faith Hill, Jason Derulo, Stephen King, and it's not even Halloween, Upton Sinclair, whose work sometimes is not too far from some of Stephen King's stuff, and basketball coach Red Auerbach, as well as Sophia Loren. Those last two are reaching way back for some of you, and beyond, probably for most of you. And speaking of ancient history, in 1973, Billie Jean King, who at that time was a very successful professional tennis player, beat Bobby Riggs in the famed Battle of the Sexes tennis match. No need to check it out. That's about all you need to know. But today's quote comes from Billie Jean King, who said, "Champions keep playing until they get it right."